hello there again. This, as you can see, is my Piaggio Quartz 50. So big I can barely get in shot. There we go, that's much better. And I have done a bunch of repairs on this thing. Mostly because why did I not get a scooter to mess around with, and it was a lot of fun. But yesterday, after I visited a zoo, something kinda bizarre happened. All of a sudden, water started to come out of the pressure relief valve of the water tank in here. Since, well, this is a water-cooled scooter, of course, it has a system like that to prevent, well, if the water is getting too hot, it just starts boiling and the whole cooling system will explode. So, at first I didn't think any of that. Maybe I had put too much in there and just got a little bit hot, but the readings didn't add up. The thermometer of this thing said 80 degrees, so that should still be fine. But shortly after that I see the temperature rising and it's getting very close to 100 degrees Celsius. And at the next stop, the engine cuts out with a huge cloud of smoke coming out of the exhaust. White smoke, to be exact. Well, I check inside the cooling tank, and I see it's empty. So, what has happened? Well, definitely one of the seals that holds the water away from the engine has failed. Nice. And there we go. Nice. Let's have a closer look at that. Come on, focus. And yeah, this thing has completely fucking failed. And after having this thing, analyzing this thing properly, you can see that this thing was actually way too big for the mount it was supposed to be. And you can see just in about the corners up there, it sat in there perfectly fine. It has the molten, well, it has molded itself to the area where it's supposed to be. But as you can clearly tell, well, it definitely failed here and in a bunch of places as well. So even though everything was talked to the stuff that was set in the workshop manual, this thing ended up expanding too much or just being way too big. And rubber of it was inside of the combustion chamber. Oops. So yeah, I also have a few pictures of this thing as before I started to remove it. And there is our point of failure right there. And that's how water got into the cylinder. Nice. So, at first I checked the piston and do the regular stuff, everything's fine there. The piston ended up getting stuck because water was flowing into the engine. But I was hoping that that would be the end of it, just clean out the piston and be done with it. But of course, water ended up flowing through the piston rings into the crankcase of the engine, and I have water now in there as well. Meaning that even with the new seal and everything, there is absolutely no way that this engine is going to end up starting up because it still spews a bunch of water everywhere, even after cranking it for a really long time just to get all the water out. Not really that recommended because, well, you don't really have that much lubricant in there besides the water. But I was hoping just to get this thing hot enough and run it for a short while just to get rid of all the residual water in there. Which, no, it doesn't want to start. Of course not. There probably is also water in the exhaust and whatnot, but that's something you can I can definitely deal with later. The engine would probably blow that out anyways when I get it started up. But currently, the issue is that water is still somehow deep in there. Meaning I have to remove the carburetor, spray the thing up with brake cleaner, put in some 2-stroke oil, suck up all the residue in there, and that hopefully is the end of it. This is annoying. Alright, let's have a closer look. I've taken up the carburetor and there we go. You can definitely see some water residue on the sides there. There's some blue droplets there. And you can see the water at the bottom. So there's still a bunch of water inside the engine. Nice! I'm gonna show you how to vacuum that up. It's very easily way. And for that you just need a glass bottle, some very thin hoses, something like you use for the oil pump. Like that stuff there. And a fridge compressor. yeah, fridge compressor may be the weird thing about this, but trust me, it works very well. I've done it a bunch of times. And you can find fridges on pretty much every side of the road, so yeah, or people are giving them away for free sometimes. So yeah, should be pretty easy, and I'm going to show you exactly what to do. That's a fridge compressor, that's a Club Mate bottle, and a fridge compressor has two lines on it. One is a vacuum line and the other is a high pressure line. We do not need the high pressure line for this, so I'm just going to stick it on that. That's just to absorb the oil, since these things tend to leak oil. And I've hooked up two hoses into that Club Mate bottle. I just punched in two holes, and again, yes, this has to be a glass bottle. A plastic bottle will not work, no matter how strong. It just creates a vacuum that's too great for the bottle to handle, and it will just crush itself together. Even the thick hard plastic one I've tried that with, and it didn't work. So, I have a short hose and a long hose which goes almost all the way to the bottom of the bottle. And there's a vacuum on this. Not a very powerful vacuum, but there is definitely a slight vacuum on there. So, what I can do now is take the hose and shove it all the way down into the engine. I've checked that I can actually get in there. Just like that. Now there really is not that much liquid in the engine, since the chamber is really small. But it's really not good to have water in your engine. So, in order to clean it up, I'm going to do two things. First of all, spray in some brake cleaner, crank the engine a few times just to have that nicely distributed. And then put some two-stroke oil in there, suck that up again, and yeah, repeat the procedure with the brake cleaner. As you can see, there's some nice gunky mess in there, and that's the reason why the engine will not start. No wonder. So, brake oil carb cleaner should do just fine if you can even get it in there, and just spray a bunch into the engine. I think that should be more than enough. Give this thing a few cranks. Alright, let's see if I can suck all that stuff up. Much better. You can see still some more nasty sludge in there. Now it's time for the two-stroke oil, just to have everything lubricated again. This bottle is always making a fucking mess. Alright, should be more than enough. Don't use that much really, since the chamber is really small, and you only want to really lubricate everything just to get the water out of there. Should be more than enough again. Get the vacuum again and suck up even more. It's going to have a hard time sucking up the oil since it's much thicker than the water. So that should be all the oil out of the engine. Let's do the brake cleaner again. I'm going to use a little bit more this time. Just tilting the scooter to see if anything is still in there. But I think that was everything. Alright. There we go. That should be the engine all cleaned out. It seems like I will unfortunately have to take off the cap of the cylinder again, since I didn't know that there was water in the crankcase, so water will have gotten back into the engine and the piston area. So that's a little bit annoying, but oh well, what you gonna do? And just in case someone says I did bullshit and the seal was totally fine, well, then how do you explain this? Why the hell is the other seal much thinner than this thing? I mean, yes, this thing has been smooshed a little bit together, but overall you can see that the busted seal is much thicker than the new one I've installed. So yeah, something has definitely gone wrong with this one, and yeah, that happened. Engine overall, as you can see, is still totally fine. Just gonna try and suck out the exhaust again, since I'm pretty sure water also went into there. Well, I guess all the water's already gone. Nice. So that's good. But yeah, again, here, same procedure. Just clean out the entire engine, since the water has probably removed most of the oil in there. Add some two-stroke oil on the inside, and then this thing should be good to go again. Since, well, the issue now was that the engine just sprayed water all the time outside of the hole of the spark plug, and I couldn't really mount the spark plug in there again anymore, since, well, yeah, you can probably guess why. For once, it keeps getting wet and you're filling the combustion chamber with water, which is a really bad idea, since water hammer is a thing, and if you get that against your piston, you can mess up some stuff seriously in here, and that's something you don't really want to, or do ya? Probably not. So yeah, that should be everything nicely cleaned out. I'm just going to spray this thing down again as well. And yeah, add some two-stroke oil in here, add some thread locker to the screws as well. Just be extra safe and cautious. Tighten this thing down again and try to start the engine again. Which, this time, it should hopefully fire and not just end up spraying water at me. The reason why the piston looks a bit charcoaly as well, I tried a different carburetor, but that carburetor must have had a defect, because even after removing the screw that's responsible for adding more air, the engine would still run too rich, and you couldn't get this thing adjusted properly. But whatever, turned out the original carburetor was still just fine. Also, while working on the scooter was a bizarre thing that happened. This was the spark plug that was installed in the scooter. Seems kinda typical, it's the short style and whatnot. Now this one, when I removed it first, was in really bad shape. It had a lot of carbon buildup on there. I've only cleaned it up now with a steel brush, because genius me, broke the replacement spark plug I got when removing it. So yeah, that happened. But just when I was working on the scooter and trying to get it run in the first place, even before that with the failed gasket happened, I bought a new spark plug, and I just bought one from, without, well, checking the number this one has, and I just bought the new one that was supposedly to fit in there, and I was like really confused, because the fuck? Why is that one so much bigger than this one? So I did some research, and I cannot find this spark plug in any relation to that scooter at all, the Piaggio Quartz 50, and this one just shows up for some Honda or Yamaha ones, but not a single Piaggio scooter actually uses this spark plug, so what the fuck? Well, I guess just the previous guy replaced the spark plug, had no idea which one to use, and just put a random one in there without knowing what he was actually doing, but the longer one works just fine. So, there you go, no smoke anymore, and it finally runs properly. Yeah, water definitely got into the exhaust, because this thing was smoking like crazy. But there we go, everything is now finally back to normal. Even gave this thing a clean over because everything was full of sticky coolant and that was really annoying. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching and goodbye.